Our story begins as the sounds of battle fill the ears of Kit Fisto. Coruscant is under attack, and together he and Mace Windu are leaping up to an air train where General Grievous is trying to capture Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. Fisto watches as Grievous pulled out two blades, but Windu was there in a split second to meet him, swinging at the two blades, trying to destroy the General. Windu and Fisto were using the Force to keep themselves balanced as the train zoomed through the air, and as Fisto moved to fight Grievous, his Magna Guards crawled up to meet them, and Fisto let himself enjoy this battle as he spun around the guards, claiming a limb from both of them with each swing of his blade. The speed of the train allowed Fisto to kick one of them away before using the Force to throw another into a wall. The guard exploded completely. Kit Fisto chased after Windu and Grievous now, only to find Grievous leaping from the train to a droid speeder, laughing as he was on his way now to capture Palpatine. Fisto put away his lightsaber, breathing heavily, looking upon the horrible destruction all around him. Millions of innocents were losing their homes, families, or dying because of this war that the Jedi were leading, and he wondered about his place in all of this. It was now the night after the Battle of Coruscant and the demise of Count Dooku. The war seemed closer to coming to an end than ever before, yet the Force felt darker than ever. It was all so strange, and in his temple quarters, Kit Fisto was one of the few Jedi still awake. Fisto opened up his window and felt the cool Coruscant air against his face. The smell of smoke was still around from the battle, and the speeders of traffic were back in the air. Coruscant never stopped, and this planet had become one of Fisto's least favorites over the years. He was looking back on his life tonight, before the war and before his appointment to the Jedi Council here on Coruscant. Fisto was always one who dedicated his life to the mysteries of the Force, but he also was never one to shy away from helping the galaxy politically, and as he grew older than in the Order, he was determined to gain a seat on the Council of Reconciliation. This council was separate from the main Jedi Council, and it served to settle debates either in the Senate or on planets in a peaceful, diplomatic way. The Jedi High Council directly serves the Chancellor, while the Council of Reconciliation serves diplomats in ways that actually help. But when the war came, and Jedi Masters were dying every day, especially that horrific day on Geonosis, Fisto was offered a seat on the High Council, and he chose to accept it. But the war went on and more Jedi fell. Fisto would become more and more disillusioned with the Council every day. He held high respect for each and every one of the members, but the entire Council seemed to agree that Palpatine was corrupt, maybe even working under Sith Lord Darth Sidious, and yet they still served his every wish. Fisto was known by the Jedi for having an outgoing personality. He wasn't afraid to speak his mind or crack a joke at any moment, but it was his ability to snap into focus that landed him on the Council. Even in battle though, Fisto was always searching for an optimistic view, and the more this war dragged on, the harder this was becoming. Fisto searched the Force for an answer, a way out of this war, a fresh start for the Jedi, but nothing was coming to him. So he finally did fall asleep, hoping the next day would provide him with the answers he was looking for. And the following day, Kit Fisto would be sitting in his Jedi Council seat as the group was discussing new revelations from Palpatine himself. The Council just learned that Palpatine was appointing Anakin Skywalker to be his personal representative on the Council, and now the Jedi in here were discussing strategy to combat this move. It was like a game of chess, but the two parties against each other were supposed to be leading the Republic. Mace Windu, Yoda, and Agen Kolar were leading the charge among the Jedi to recommend that Anakin spy on the Chancellor, just like he's basically been instructed to spy on the Jedi. And although Obi-Wan Kenobi tried hard to shoot this idea down, enough members of the Council spoke up with their approval for this, and the motion was passed. But the Council also agreed that this would not be an official mission on the record, it would be off the record. And Fisto again felt the same way that he did last night. The Jedi have become too focused on the political side of things with the Chancellor. They are not serving the people of the galaxy as they should be. There are trillions of beings in the galaxy who need their help, but instead they are tying themselves into a risky political web. Fisto sat back as he usually did, trusting in the Force to guide the Jedi. But as Anakin entered the room, Fisto's keen senses spiked up and were almost overwhelming for a moment. Fisto had an acute ability to read the emotions of others, and the stress that was radiating off of Anakin was more than Fisto had felt in a long time from any Jedi. It was also a surprise to Fisto, as Anakin often carried himself with an optimistic, fun personality. But perhaps he'd been hiding all of his real emotions behind a wall that has been torn down today. These thoughts were all but confirmed, as Mace Windu told Anakin that he will get a seat on the council, but he will not be granted the rank of Master. Fisto could now feel Anakin's stress be ripped away and be replaced with anger, jealousy, and even a touch of hatred. Fisto could see now just how close Anakin was to touching the dark side of the Force. It was indeed a dark time for all of the Jedi, and as Anakin took a seat, Fisto again thought about all the potential paths that could be taken during the rest of the war. One of the threads was Anakin spying on the Chancellor, finding out who the Sith Lord was, and that would likely be good. But there was another thread that Fisto was now seeing. If the Jedi truly do send Anakin to spy on the Chancellor in his current mental state, then there is a chance that the Sith Lord senses Anakin's dark emotions and uses it against the Jedi. Fisto did not think that Anakin would turn to the dark side, but if there was even a slight chance that he could, then he is one of the last Jedi he would want to ever go against. Anakin's power was undeniable. So as the council was dismissed and Obi-Wan Kenobi was preparing to deliver the news to Anakin about his mission to spy on Palpatine, Kit Fisto caught up to the two of them, and he asked to speak with Anakin alone before Obi-Wan could deliver this mission. Both Obi-Wan and Anakin were fairly shocked by this, but Obi-Wan allowed it. Fisto smiled at Anakin, and he walked the halls with him now, saying it was good to speak with him. The two of them hadn't had a conversation since the Mon Cala campaign a long while ago. Fisto told Anakin he was an excellent swimmer, especially considering he grew up on a planet that barely knew what water was. This got a small chuckle out of Anakin, and Fisto felt better about this already. Anakin always held an admiration for Kit Fisto that was different than almost every other Jedi. As Anakin grew up shy and insecure about his different upbringing in the temple, he was often hesitant to let his real personality out. But in those years, Anakin would sometimes see Kit Fisto as the Jedi Master interacted with younglings, and Fisto carried a laid-back outlook on life. He often carried himself with enthusiasm, wearing a large smile on his face, laughing with young Jedi, not taking life too seriously. Fisto didn't know it, but this actually helped Anakin to develop his own outgoing and laid-back personality that Anakin became known for, especially as the war got underway. Of course, all of that faded away in this moment for Anakin because of his visions about Padme dying. He couldn't just bring himself to feel much hope or excitement, but Fisto was just easy to talk to. So as they walked the halls together, Fisto apologized about Anakin not being a master. He told Anakin that Yoda and Windu were just stressed about Palpatine's involvement with everything, and the second this war ends, he is sure Anakin will be made a master. This did help calm Anakin a bit, and as the two of them sat on a wooden bench overlooking the youngling training rooms, Anakin opened himself to Fisto, saying he's been having visions lately, and they've been of pain, suffering, and death, of someone he simply cannot let go of. Someone romantic in his life. Anakin expected Fisto to be angry, but Kit Fisto sat back and told Anakin he's actually dealt with something similar like this not too long ago. Anakin had a look of shock, and Fisto laughed, saying that in another life, perhaps he would have pursued it further, but during this war, him and Aayla Secura actually formed a romantic relationship. It was during a skirmish on Kamino. Aayla fell into the water, and Fisto had to save her. It sparked a relationship, which the two of them soon chose to end in order to focus on the war and the Jedi ways. Anakin asked Fisto if he still had feelings for her, and Fisto said he absolutely does, but he will not let them get in the way of doing what is right. He continued on, saying that right now Aayla Secura is on Felucia, one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy, but he trusts her to survive. Anakin asked Fisto if he learned she was going to die, would he do anything possible to save her? And Fisto would tell Anakin that the future is always uncertain, but if a Jedi gives in to their fear, then their worst fears will inevitably be realized. Trying to will the Force to change the future is perhaps the one thing that could make these terrible visions come true. Fisto could see Anakin was not completely satisfied, so he had a new idea. It was possible that just being on Coruscant allowed Anakin to be susceptible to the Sith. So Fisto decided that when General Grievous is discovered, he will personally make sure that he and Anakin are the ones sent to destroy him. The two Jedi went their separate ways, and Anakin felt a lot better than he did after leaving the Council. As he went to visit Padme and Palpatine, Kit Fisto was able to find Obi-Wan, and the two of them boarded the gunship with Mace Windu and Grand Master Yoda. And Windu asked Obi-Wan how Anakin took his new assignment to spy on Palpatine. Kit Fisto of course interrupted and said that he thinks the Jedi should take a different approach. He told the Jedi that he sensed pain, stress, and even some darkness in Skywalker. It would be unwise to put him in such a vulnerable position with Palpatine, especially if the Sith Lord is close to Palpatine. Anakin is on the verge of an explosion within himself. Windu and Yoda both went deep into thought as Obi-Wan spoke up, agreeing with Fisto. He knew Anakin well. It was unwise to put so much pressure on him, not because he couldn't handle it, but because his loyalty to Palpatine ran so deep. Yoda and Windu looked to each other again, and with a sigh, Windu said so be it, asking what they should do instead. And Fisto said that with the Council's permission, he would like to lead the campaign on Grievous, with Anakin by his side whenever the droid general is discovered. The Jedi chose to allow this, trusting Fisto's intuition, and Yoda would take off to Kashyyyk, as the Jedi accepted they wouldn't have anyone spying on Palpatine. The following day, Anakin and the Jedi would learn of Grievous's location, and Kit Fisto would announce that he will be leading the campaign with Skywalker by his side. This mission is of the utmost importance, and Fisto nearly beat Grievous before, while Anakin has won more battles than any other Jedi general during this war. There was some consideration to have Obi-Wan go with them, but Windu decided that perhaps the negotiating skills of Kenobi will be best suited in the Council and the Senate, in case they need to confront the Chancellor anytime soon. Anakin would accept the mission, and he would ready his half of the 501st for what would hopefully be a final mission before the end of the war. They took off to Utapau, and Anakin soon stood around a data table with Fisto, Oppo, and a few other leaders for this mission. Grievous had no idea they were coming, so they were going to take him on from both sides. Anakin and his half of the army would infiltrate from the streets, while Fisto and his half would descend from above the sinkhole. They would take the Separatist army by shock, pushing them in towards the center, until Grievous has no choice but to fight. And that is where the fun truly will begin. The ships would emerge above Utapau, and the attack groups were quickly sent out. Anakin and his men flew over the city, scanning for battle droids, landing on the streets with the highest concentration of droids. There were a lot of them here, but this was Anakin Skywalker and his army. They ran into battle, forcing the Separatist army to begin retreating towards the sinkhole. Grievous growled in frustration as he saw this, but he thought the Republic to be foolish. His escape ship was waiting for him just outside the sinkhole, so he moved that way, when suddenly Kit Fisto and his men landed, charging into battle, and once again, Grievous was forced to turn around. His main objective was survival. Sidious told him to expect one Jedi, most likely Kenobi, but instead Fisto and Skywalker were here. This was not good. As the battle moved through the Utapau streets, pushing towards the center, Anakin spotted two Magna Guards entering into a small hut. So Anakin leapt up, chasing them until he entered the hut, and he killed the two guards. Anakin looked around, noticing they seemed to be erasing some sort of information, but they did not get all of it erased. This seemed to be important data. One recent communication was recorded, and Anakin hit the replay button on it, hoping to find out where Grievous sent the escaping Separatist leaders. And he would find much more than that. Anakin's entire world nearly shattered in front of him, as the hologram of Darth Sidious appeared in front of him. He instructed Grievous to send the Separatists to the Mustafar system, and he told Grievous that soon he will have a new apprentice, one far younger and more powerful. And despite the hood and the raspy voice, Anakin recognized this man. This was a replay of Chancellor Palpatine. The sounds of the battle outside faded from Anakin's ears. The entire galaxy seemed to go quiet, as he realized the truth. Palpatine is Sidious. He couldn't move, and then it took the sound of clashing lightsabers for Anakin to get back into battle mode. He quickly contacted R2 and had the droid come here to download this recording, before running out to see Grievous and Fisto battling through the streets. Anakin saw Fisto cut through an arm of Grievous, and a lightsaber clattered to the ground, so Anakin leapt into the air, calling this saber to his arm, and he dual-wielded against Grievous with Fisto by his side. All of a sudden, it was 3 blades versus 3 blades, and Grievous lost his advantage. He growled in frustration before surprising them both with a kick to the chest. The two Jedi got up, sprinting after Grievous, and Fisto looked to Anakin with a smile, telling him they're going to finish this together. Grievous saw a way out as a vulture droid was about to fly right past him. He was going to jump on top of it, when it was suddenly blown through the air and a Jedi fighter, piloted by R2-D2, flew by with an excited chirp. Grievous watched R2 go to the communications room as Skywalker and Fisto caught up to him. Grievous was forced to fight, and he was pushed back to the edge until Anakin cut through 2 more arms, and Fisto jammed his lightsaber through Grievous's heart. The droid general took one final breath, and everything went dark as he fell to the bottom of the sinkhole, exploding on the ground. And Anakin turned to Kit Fisto, telling him of what he has found. Back on Coruscant, Palpatine decided he would wait for Anakin to return from Utapau before telling the truth. He had no doubt that Anakin would destroy Grievous with the help of Master Fisto, and upon his return, Palpatine would convince Anakin to join him, telling the boy that the Jedi were evil, and only he can save Padme from certain death. Of course, he had no real intent of saving her. She would leave Anakin after he turned to the dark side, and Palpatine expected that this would set Anakin off even further down the dark path. It would all be perfect. But moments later, the office door opened, and inside walked Mace Windu, Saesee Tiin, Aegon Kolar, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Kit Fisto with Anakin Skywalker. Turns out the two Jedi left Utapau before the battle ended, and they were here to surprise him. They all ignited their blades as Windu told Palpatine that they have the truth. His reign of terror across the galaxy ends today. Palpatine slowly stood up, telling Anakin he must now make a choice. Choose to learn the powers to break free of the chains of the Jedi and save his wife from certain death, or lose all that he loves. There was a momentary distraction here, where the Jedi were distracted by Palpatine mentioning Anakin as a wife, and Palpatine smiled before igniting his red blade, using a force scream as he spun through the air. He landed and stabbed through Saesee Tiin's heart, then spun to cut Kolar in half. The remaining 4 Jedi looked at Palpatine in horror as his friendly disguise was lifted. This was, undoubtedly, Darth Sidious. And Sidious used the Force to throw Kolar's blue blade through the air, and it cut deep into Obi-Wan's leg. He fell to the ground as Sidious used a wave of lightning to push the other 3 Jedi into the hallway. Anakin looked on as Palpatine was about to kill Obi-Wan, and he made his choice. He flew through the hall, kicking Palpatine hard back into his desk as Fisto and Windu rejoined him. Obi-Wan was down, but alive. Palpatine knew he was in danger now, so he blasted lightning into the walls, exploding all of the lights in here. And as smoke filled the room, he flew at the Jedi, but it was too little, too late. Windu blocked a strike and kicked Palpatine in the knee. The Sith Lord buckled over, and Kit Fisto moved in to slice across Sidious's face, blinding him. As the smoke cleared away, the 3 Jedi held their blades to his face, and together they chose to arrest Palpatine. Obi-Wan was helped up, and they grabbed the sabers of Tiin and Kolar before bringing Sidious to the temple in force restraining handcuffs. The trial of Palpatine would begin within the hour, and Anakin Skywalker would present the Senate with the recordings from Utapau, showing Darth Sidious. His face was covered, voice was distorted, but the Senate technology was able to match his voice to the one in the recordings from his office during the duel. Palpatine was revealed to be behind the war from the start, and he was injected with a drug to knock him out. The Jedi Council would watch as the Sith Lord was frozen in carbonite and brought to the highest level of any Republic prison forever to be kept. The war would last around another week as battles were finished and the Separatist leaders were arrested on Mustafar. Anakin would still be extremely stressed about Padme, but he would become a Jedi Master, and instead of trying to save her, he would learn calming techniques for himself, allowing himself to feel the Force, and these dark side visions would fade in time for him to be there for Padme as she gave a safe birth. Anakin would choose to leave the Order, at least for now, and he would personally take time to speak with Kit Fisto, thanking him for everything, before heading off to be with his family. The Jedi Order would begin to reform as Yoda stepped down, feeling as if he'd failed the Order, and the Council would elect 3 Grand Masters: Master Windu, Master Shaak Ti, and Master Fisto. Age was not a consideration. Instead, it was 3 very different personalities that would help bring the Jedi Order back to its peak. And folks, that is our story for today. Why did does Anakin telling Kit Fisto about his dreams really shift all of this? I don't know. But I really wanted to do a Kit Fisto-centered story. He was one of my favorite Jedi growing up, along with Plo Koon, of course, so just really wanted to explore a Kit Fisto story. And that's what a lot of these are, You could change a lot of different things, and does it really shift Order 66, the Empire? Does it really knock everything away? I don't know. I don't think so. But, it's fun to write. I really enjoyed writing about Fisto, and maybe I could do this story where the Empire still rises, but we've seen that's Revenge of the Sith. So my approach with these is usually, how can we end it in the hopeful way, which is the message of Star Wars. So hope you enjoyed today's video. Again, really enjoyed doing a Fisto video, one of my favorite characters, just random Jedi that I liked growing up, so wanted to write about him. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. And I'm going to be away from my home for the next week or so, but I hope to have videos scheduled. I'll at least have one scheduled, if not two, for the days I'll be gone. But yeah, regular schedule will return next week, if not this week. Anyways, just wanted to throw that out there in case something goes wrong and I can't get all the videos done on time. But I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching.